My girlfriend said, "You are so quiet." As she and her male friend laughed at me, I replied, "Bathroom," smiled calmly, and stood up. Then I walked through the back door and let silence finish what respect could not publicly remembered. I'm Mark, 24M. My girlfriend Jenna, 24F, has this guy friend Tyler. You know the type. Overly friendly, always around, always just inside some invisible boundary I couldn't name without sounding jealous. At first, I tried to play it cool. She met him in college. They'd stayed close. Group hangouts, occasional inside jokes, normal stuff. But lately something changed. The jokes weren't occasional. The inside references excluded me more and more. And whenever I tried to join, Jenna brushed me off like I was interrupting a conversation I wasn't invited to. It started small. "Relax, Mark. It's just Tyler. You're overthinking things. You don't get our humor." Then it became routine. His name on her lock screen. Phone flipping over when I walked in. Whispered messages and a subtle smirk only he understood. Last Friday night, we invited a few friends over for poker. Nothing formal, just snacks and cards. Tyler was there. Of course he was. Jenna practically glued herself to his side the moment he stepped in. She whispered something in his ear, and he laughed, looking at me. I let it slide. I kept dealing cards, pretending nothing felt off. Pretending the distance between us was just stress or timing. Pretending the sinking feeling wasn't real. Then came the moment. Tyler nudged Jenna while I folded my hand. She didn't even look at me when she said it. "You're so quiet tonight." Not concerned. Not curious. Mocking. She laughed. He laughed. That's when something in me settled. Not anger, clarity. I didn't flip the table, throw accusations, demand explanations. Instead, I let silence do the work. I placed my cards down, stood, and said the only word I needed. "Bathroom." Calm smile. Controlled steps. Then I walked straight through the back door. And kept going. Because sometimes silence finishes what respect can't. I didn't actually need the bathroom. I needed air. Distance. Proof that I still had control over my own feet. The cold hit my face the second the back door shut behind me. It was late fall, the kind of night where your breath shows and the street is quiet enough to hear your own thoughts getting louder. I stood there for a second, hands in my pockets, listening. Laughter still leaked through the walls. Jenna's laugh most of all, sharp, careless, the one she only used when she felt untouchable. Tyler's voice layered under it, confident, comfortable, like he belonged there more than I did. No one followed me. That detail mattered more than I expected. I walked down the alley behind the house, past trash bins and a flickering security light. I counted my steps just to stay grounded. 1, 2, 3. This wasn't a dramatic exit. This was me choosing not to humiliate myself by staying where I clearly wasn't wanted. My phone buzzed. "Jenna, you okay? You left kind of weird LOL." That LOL did something to me. It shrank 3 years of history into a joke I was apparently supposed to laugh at. I didn't respond. I kept walking until I hit the main road and sat on a bus bench. The plastic was cold. I welcomed it. My mind replayed the night in pieces I couldn't ignore anymore. Her leaning toward Tyler when she laughed, the way she rolled her eyes when I talked, the way she hadn't once asked why I was quiet. She'd already decided. Another buzz. "Jenna, did I say something wrong?" Still nothing from me. For the first time in months, I let myself say the thing I'd been pushing down. I wasn't insecure. I was being edged out. Slowly. Publicly. On purpose. I thought back to last week when I told her Tyler made me uncomfortable. She'd sighed, looked at the ceiling, and said, "God, Mark, not everything is about you." That sentence echoed now, louder than the laughter. After 20 minutes, my phone rang. Jenna's name lit up the screen. I watched it buzz until it stopped. I stood up, not to go back, but to go home. My home. The one place left where I didn't feel like a punchline. Behind me, the party kept going. Ahead of me, something quiet and final had already started. When I got home, the apartment felt different. Not empty, honest. No background noise, no forced energy, no competing for attention. I dropped my keys in the bowl by the door and stood there longer than I needed to, listening to nothing. My phone buzzed again. "Jenna, seriously? Where did you go?" I stared at the screen, thumb hovering. For months, I'd rehearsed conversations in my head. Calm explanations, reasonable boundaries, ways to not sound dramatic. Funny how none of them mattered now. I put the phone face down. 10 minutes later, another message. "Jenna, Tyler thinks you took the joke the wrong way. That one made me laugh. A short, hollow sound. Of course he thought that. He always had an opinion about my reactions, my tone, my place. I opened a beer I didn't really want and sat on the edge of the couch. My mind kept replaying moments I'd dismissed before. The time she texted him first thing in the morning while I was still brushing my teeth. The way she lit up when he walked into a room, but barely looked up when I did. The inside jokes she never explained because you wouldn't get it. It wasn't just tonight. Tonight was just the clearest version. My phone rang again. This time I answered. "What?" I said. No anger. No warmth. "Why did you leave like that?" Jenna snapped. Not worried. Annoyed. "You embarrassed me." I let that sit. "You laughed at me." "Oh my God," she said, dragging the words out. "We were teasing. You're so sensitive lately." There it was. The familiar script. Her rewriting the moment until I was the problem. "I wasn't sensitive," I said. "I was done." She scoffed. I could hear voices behind her. Music. Tyler's laugh again. She hadn't even stepped outside to call. "Done with what?" she asked. "With competing," I replied. "With being the quiet guy you joke about instead of the boyfriend you respect." Silence. Not the thoughtful kind. The calculating kind. "You're being dramatic," she said finally. "Tyler's just a friend. You walking out like that was weird." Weird. Not hurtful. Not unfair. Weird. That was the moment something clicked fully into place. "I'm not coming back tonight," I said. "What?" Her voice sharpened. "Mark, don't do this." "I already did," I replied, calm in a way that surprised even me. "We'll talk later." I hung up before she could respond. For the first time, I slept without waiting for an apology that never came. I woke up to my phone vibrating like it was angry at me. Missed calls. 5. Texts stacked on top of each other. "Jenna, we need to talk." "Jenna, you seriously just left me there." "Jenna, everyone noticed." "Jenna, Tyler feels bad, BTW." "Jenna, you made this a whole thing." That last one sealed it. "You made this a whole thing." I lay there staring at the ceiling, feeling weirdly calm. Not numb, clear. Like my brain had finally stopped negotiating with my heart. I didn't reply. An hour later, there was a knock on my door. Not a polite one. Sharp. Impatient. The Jenna knock. I opened it, and there she was. Arms crossed. Jaw tight. Already halfway into a speech she'd clearly rehearsed in the car. "What was that last night?" she demanded, stepping inside without waiting for permission. "You embarrassed me in front of everyone." I closed the door slowly. "You already said that." "Well, it's true," she snapped. "You don't just walk out because someone jokes around. Tyler was literally just messing with you." "Then why wasn't I laughing?" I asked. She rolled her eyes. "Hard. Because you're insecure. You always do this. You go quiet. You brood. And then you punish me with silence." Punish. Interesting word. "I didn't punish you," I said. "I removed myself." She laughed, short and sharp. "God, listen to yourself. You act like you're so mature, but you can't even handle a joke." I leaned against the counter, arms relaxed. "You didn't joke with me. You joked at me." Her expression shifted, annoyance flickering into something colder. Defensive. "Tyler gets my humor," she said. "He knows I don't mean anything by it." "And I don't." I asked. She hesitated. Just a second too long. "Well," she said, shrugging, "you're different. You're sensitive about stuff." There it was again. Same word. Same dismissal. I nodded slowly. "So let me get this straight. You laugh with him, about me, and when I don't enjoy it, that's my flaw." She threw her hands up. "Why are you making me choose? This is ridiculous." "I'm not," I said quietly. "You already did." She stared at me like I'd spoken another language. "No," she said. "I chose you. Tyler's just comfortable," I finished. "Safe. Always there. Louder than me. More fun." Her silence this time wasn't dismissive. It was exposed. And for the first time, she looked like she realized I might actually be leaving. She sat down like she owned the place. Same couch. Same posture. Like this was just another argument she'd win by outlasting me. "You're blowing this up," Jenna said, softer now. "Strategic. You always do this when you feel left out." I didn't sit. I stayed standing, hands loose at my sides. "I don't feel left out," I said. "I'm left out." She scoffed. "That's dramatic." "No," I replied. "That's accurate." Her jaw tightened. "So what? You want me to stop being friends with him? Is that what this is?" I shook my head. I wanted respect. I wanted you to notice when I was uncomfortable instead of turning it into a joke. You never said anything, she shot back. I did, I said. Multiple times. You just didn't like how it sounded. She looked away, tapping her nails against her phone. You're asking me to walk on eggshells. I'm asking you not to laugh at me with someone else, I said. In public. That finally got a reaction. Her eyes flashed. You're acting like I cheated. I'm acting like I watched my girlfriend bond with another guy at my expense, I said evenly. Over and over. She stood up abruptly. I can't believe this. Tyler was right. This is exactly what he said you'd do. That stopped me cold. What did he say? I asked. She hesitated. Too late. The damage was done. He said you'd get weird and quiet and make everything uncomfortable, she said, crossing her arms. That you'd take it personally. I let out a slow breath. So you talked about me. Of course I did, she snapped. He listens. He understands. There it was. Out in the open. No denial. No apology. I think you should go, I said. Her eyes widened. Excuse me. I need space, I said. Real space. Not whatever this is. She laughed, but it sounded thin. You're seriously kicking me out over this? I'm choosing not to be mocked in my own relationship, I replied. She grabbed her bag, shaking her head. You're making a huge mistake. You're letting your ego ruin something good. I opened the door. She paused at the threshold, waiting. For doubt. For me to stop her. I didn't. When the door closed behind her, the apartment went quiet again. Not lonely. Honest. And for the first time, I didn't feel like the quiet one anymore. The silence after she left didn't rush to fill itself. It just stayed. Heavy but clean. I sat down where she'd been sitting, stared at the blank TV screen, and waited for the second wave. The panic. The regret, the urge to text her something like we'll figure this out. It never came. Instead, my phone buzzed. Tyler. I stared at his name longer than I should have. The audacity of it almost impressed me. I didn't answer. Another buzz. Tyler. Hey man, I think things got misunderstood last night. Misunderstood. Of course. I finally replied with one word. No. 3 dots appeared immediately. Tyler. I wasn't trying to disrespect you. Jenna jokes like that with everyone. I watched the typing bubble disappear and reappear like he was pacing. Tyler, you kinda overreacted though. That was it. The final confirmation I didn't know I needed. I set the phone down and didn't respond again. An hour later, Jenna texted. Jenna, can we please talk without you being like this? Jenna, Tyler feels awful. Still about him. I typed, deleted, then typed again. I'm done being discussed instead of respected. She replied almost instantly. Jenna, you're acting like I chose him over you. I read that line 3 times. Then I sent the truth I'd been avoiding. You didn't choose him once. You chose him 100 small times and called it nothing. No response. For the rest of the night, I packed. Not dramatically, just deliberately. Clothes folded. Books stacked. Toothbrush dropped into a bag. Every item felt like proof that this wasn't an impulse. Around midnight, another message came through. Jenna, so what? You're just leaving? After everything? I leaned against the wall, phone cool in my hand. I already left, I typed. You just didn't notice until now. I blocked both numbers after that. Not out of anger. Out of self-respect. When I lay down to sleep, my mind didn't race. It settled. I realized something important in that quiet. I hadn't been quiet because I was weak. I'd been quiet because I was observing. And once I saw clearly, I didn't need to raise my voice at all. Silence had already said everything. The next morning felt strange in a way I didn't expect. No dread. No urge to check my phone. Just the quiet hum of a day that belonged to me again. I went to work like nothing had happened. Same commute. Same desk. Same coffee that tasted a little better than usual. Around noon, my coworker asked if I was okay, said I looked lighter. I laughed it off, but the word stuck with me. Lighter. That afternoon, I made the mistake of unblocking Jenna for 5 minutes. Curiosity, not hope. The messages were waiting like they'd been holding their breath. Jenna, I can't believe you blocked me. Jenna, Tyler says you're being manipulative. Jenna, if you don't talk to me, that's on you. I read them once. Then again. No apology. No accountability. Just blame rerouted through him like always. I blocked her again. Permanently this time. That evening, I ran into one of our mutual friends at the grocery store. She hesitated before speaking, like she wasn't sure which side of the story she was allowed to tell. Jenna's upset, she said carefully. She says you walked out over a joke. I nodded. That's easier than admitting she laughed with someone else at my expense. The friend didn't argue. That told me enough. Later that night, I sat on my balcony watching traffic slide by, thinking about how often I'd swallowed things just to keep the peace. How many times I'd gone quiet not because I had nothing to say, but because I already knew how it would be received. The truth was uncomfortable but clear. She didn't lose me because I left. She lost me because she stopped protecting me when it mattered. Around 11 p.m., my phone buzzed from an unknown number. "This is Tyler. I think you owe Jenna an apology." I stared at it, then typed back the only honest answer. No, I owed myself one. I blocked the number without waiting for a response. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I needed to explain myself to anyone. The people who understood didn't need it. The people who didn't never would. I went to bed knowing one thing for sure. I hadn't been replaced. I'd been dismissed. And I finally chose not to accept it. A week passed. That's how long it took for the story to finish mutating. At first, people were careful when they talked to me. Vague phrases. Miscommunication. Bad timing. The kind of language people use when they don't want to upset the version of the story they've already heard. Then the details started slipping. "She really laughed like that?" Tyler said what? "She didn't even follow you outside?" Funny how silence gives other people space to think. I never corrected anyone. Never defended myself. I just listened. The truth doesn't need a hype man. It spreads on its own once people notice the pattern. Jenna tried one last time 2 nights ago. New number. Different tone. "I miss you. I didn't mean for things to go that far." Tyler's been distant lately. I think everything just spiraled. That last line told me more than the rest combined. Not "I hurt you." Not "I disrespected you." But he's distant. I didn't reply. Instead, I deleted the thread and went for a walk. Same streets I'd walked 100 times before, but this time without rehearsing conversations in my head. Without bracing myself for the next comment, the next joke, the next moment I'd be expected to shrink. I realized something important as I walked. I wasn't healing from the breakup. I was healing from being minimized. From being told my reactions were wrong instead of my feelings being valid. From learning to doubt my own perception because someone else found it inconvenient. The quiet wasn't lonely anymore. It was protective. I stopped at a coffee shop, ordered something new just because I could, and sat by the window watching people pass. Couples laughing. Friends talking. Strangers living lives I didn't have to manage or compete in. For the first time in a long time, I felt solid. Not reactive. Not defensive. Just present. Some relationships don't end with a fight. They end with clarity. And once you see yourself clearly again, you don't go back to places where you had to disappear just to belong. The funny thing about leaving quietly is how loud the aftermath gets for everyone else. By the second week, people stopped asking what happened and started asking how I was doing. That shift mattered. It meant the narrative had moved past blame and into understanding. One friend told me Jenna had been confused lately. Another said she was reevaluating friendships. Someone else mentioned Tyler wasn't around much anymore. I didn't ask follow-up questions. None of it was my business now. What was my business was how steady I felt. I noticed it in small ways. I didn't rehearse texts before sending them. I didn't scan rooms to see who Jenna was standing next to. I didn't brace myself before speaking. I talked when I had something to say, and stayed quiet when I didn't. The difference now was that the quiet belonged to me. One night, I ran into Tyler at a bar downtown. Total accident. He saw me first, hesitated, then walked over like he had something to prove. "Man," he said, forcing a laugh. "Things got way blown out of proportion, huh?" I looked at him. Really looked. Same confidence. Same casual entitlement. "Not really," I replied. They landed exactly where they were heading. He frowned. "You still think I was disrespecting you?" "I think you were comfortable," I said. "And I think she let you be." "That wasn't." "It doesn't matter," I interrupted gently. "I'm not here to debate it." That seemed to throw him more than anger would have. I paid my tab and left him standing there, mid-sentence. Walking home, I realized that moment would have wrecked me a month ago. Tonight, it barely registered. Some people only understand boundaries when they hit them face first. Jenna never did reach out again after that last message. Maybe she realized there was nothing left to argue with. Maybe she finally heard the silence for what it was. Not punishment. Not manipulation. A conclusion. A month later, I drove past the place where it happened, the house, the cards, the laughter I walked away from. Nothing dramatic hit me. No anger. No nostalgia. Just a quiet acknowledgement, like passing a street you used to live on. That's how I knew it was really over. I didn't win. I didn't get revenge. Jenna didn't come running back with apologies that finally made sense. Tyler didn't implode in some satisfying way. Life didn't wrap it all up neatly. What I got instead was something better. I got myself back. I stopped shrinking in rooms. I stopped filtering my tone so it wouldn't bother someone else. I stopped apologizing for noticing when I was being disrespected. The quiet that once made me the punchline became the thing that protected me. People sometimes ask why I didn't say more that night. Why I didn't call her out in front of everyone. Why I didn't fight. Here's the truth. I didn't need to. Anyone who was paying attention already saw it. Anyone who wasn't never would have believed me anyway. Respect that has to be demanded publicly is usually already gone privately. So I smiled. I said bathroom. And I walked out the back door. Not because I was weak, but because I was finished explaining myself to people who laughed instead of listening. Silence finished what respect couldn't.